Alrighty. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Learning Zotero 7 with the OSU-Tulsa Library. This workshop will be a walkthrough experience. If you attended our Zotero workshop back in July, this will be kind of similar to that, but with a few updates as Zotero has been redesigned since then. So let's go over the agenda for today. We're going to talk briefly about what's new with Zotero 7, as well as how to install and set up Zotero. We'll then go over creating an account and syncing your library to your account, as well as creating groups or shared libraries. And then we'll get into organizing or creating folders or collections in Zotero, as well as adding notes and tags to make things findable. And then we'll look at examples of how to find and save sources using the OSU-Tulsa library databases and Google Scholar. And then we're going to wrap up with creating citations and bibliographies using Zotero. Okay, so why Zotero and what is Zotero? Zotero is a really fantastic research and citation tool. It is a free and open source reference management software that was created to help you collect, organize, annotate, cite, and share your research with colleagues and classmates. Zotero has a variety of potential uses. I use it personally to collect my references in a single location, attach PDFs so I can go back and view them quickly later, and highlight or annotate important elements. And then I'll use it with Microsoft Word or Google Docs to create quick in-text citations and a reference list as I go, so I don't have to worry about citations as much while I'm writing. And then so I don't have to backtrack and add those citations in later, which can add in extra hours onto a project. So it's really about being efficient and saving time, which is good news for everyone. Whether you're an undergrad, a PhD student, or a professional researcher, Zotero can help you be more efficient with your research process. And so this first link here goes to zotero.org, which we'll visit momentarily. It's the main website, and that's where we'll download Zotero, learn how to create an account, and so on. And then we also have a guide that I'll link later to Zotero that you can access that has helpful tips, links, and various tutorials. And this workshop and the handout will be posted on that guide as well when it's all finished. Okay. So first, we're going to go over the changes with the redesign. So the biggest changes with Zotero 7 really have to do with the design and functionality of the user interface. So if you've used Zotero before, you'll find that most everything is pretty familiar already. In a moment, I'll show some of the differences between version 6 and 7, but here's a list of what is new. So in addition to this new pretty icon, there's a new item pane with updated icons, and we'll look at those. There's now also a dark mode option in settings, which is quite a lot of fun. If you're like me, maybe you switched your phone and all of your apps that have the option to dark mode. It's fun, and I find it to be easier on my eyes. There are also density options. You can switch between compact and comfortable view. And upon downloading it, it asks which one you prefer. You've probably seen something similar if you use Outlook or Gmail. Improved performance speed. This is going from a 32-bit to a 64-bit software, and so it's quite a bit faster than the previous versions of Zotero, which is great. And then upgrades to the PDF reader include new annotation types such as underlining. You can add text now, and then ink where you can actually draw on the page. You can still highlight like you could in previous versions, but now you can also convert highlights and underline text, which is really neat. We'll look at that later. And you can also now open web page snapshots just like you can with PDFs without having to open a browser window. And so we'll look at examples of that. And then they've also updated the reference and citation features to be smarter, made collection searching and tabs and attachments a lot easier to navigate, and have made the app more accessible overall. So these are the biggest upgrades, and there are even more on Zotero's blog post, which covers all the upgrades in greater details. Here's that link here, and we can drop that in the chat. Thank you, Vanessa, for grabbing these links. And so I'm going to show a slide, kind of a side-by-side quickly of the 6 and 7 interfaces. This is just, this is a picture of the old interface. I did like the graphic. It's a little blurry here, it shouldn't be. That has the content divided into 3 main sections: the libraries and collections on the left side, your collection contents in the middle, and your item metadata on the left. And this does not change with the new update. You can still click into your collection folders and then get into your contents. And then once you click on an item in the middle of the screen, the metadata on the right pops up over on this side. And then this slide just shows the old Zotero 6 Mac interface, which again has the 3 sections. and looks a little different than the Windows, but has the same functionality. But the new interface really looks very similar for both Windows and Mac users, and the core functionality is essentially the same on both platforms. So you can see how similar it is. And you still have your libraries and collections on the left, your collection contents in the middle, and then your item metadata on the side. And so, okay. And this is just a close-up of what the libraries look like, kind of zoomed in. So over here, this is the old version, and this is the new version here on the right. These are folders or collections that have created. And then once you migrate to the new version, everything gets updated, but all my content is still there. And then once we get into Zotero, I think you'll find if you've used it before, you're going to find that it's really brighter, more colorful, and easier to navigate. But the changes really are a lot. They're very subtle changes. One thing that has not changed is the installation process for both the app and the browser connector. And so again, if you're like me and you were already using Zotero, you're going to get a little pop-up message like this that says, you already have the 32-bit version installed. Now you have the 64-bit version installed, and it's going to be replaced, but your data will not be affected. So you do not have to completely uninstall Zotero. It's going to replace everything when you download the new version, which is helpful to know for continuing users. So moving on then to installing and setting up Zotero. So at this point, we're going to navigate to zotero.org. Feel free to follow along, but you don't have to. We're going to click download, choose our setup, and then also download the Zotero connector browser extension. And then this how-to is also going to be available on the handout that you'll get. So let's then go over to zotero.org. Okay, real quick. So zotero.org. So from the homepage, you're going to see the download button right here in the middle right away. And if you scroll down slightly, you'll see that example of the new interface front and center. And this is what it looks like on a Mac. And then the Windows version I'm going to show shortly looks very similar. So they have a lot of really helpful tools on their website, and you can read more up at the top here. There's a documentation tabs and a forums tab. But for now, we're going to start with clicking download and getting through the install. So if I click on download, okay. So from this screen, you're going to see options for the Zotero app as well as the Zotero browser connection. And you'll need both of these things. This one is for the Windows, and then this one is for Google Chrome. Those are the defaults. But if you click on these drop-down menus, they give you other options as well. Zotero is also available for Mac, Windows, Linux, and then iOS. And then you can still download the old Zotero 6 if you so choose. I'm not sure when that is going away, but it is available for now. And then the connectors for other browsers are also available, Firefox, Edge, and Safari. Okay, and then Zotero is available for mobile now, but not for Android. I think they're still working on Android. I haven't personally played around with the phone app, but if you're interested in that, there is documentation about that for iPhone users. I'm personally looking forward to the release for Android. So when you click on download, it'll pop up here. If you have Chrome, it'll pop up in your downloads button in the corner. And then if I click on install Chrome connector, this is going to take you, if you're in Chrome, it'll take you to the page where you can install your connectors. I already have mine installed, so mine says remove from Chrome, but it's pretty easy to remove and then add back again if necessary. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slides really quickly. Okay, so at this point then, we're going to create an account and then set up syncing. So if you've already used Zotero, and you have an account already, you don't have to worry about this part. This part, it does all transfer over. But we're going to go through these steps on zotero.org, which is log in, register for a free account, create your username, email, password, and then log in, and you're going to click on My Profile to see your groups and your web library. And then in the Zotero app, we'll get into settings and sync the library to your client. So let me X out of some things here. And then go back to Zotero connector. Okay. So now I'm on zotero.org, back again. So from the home screen, you're going to see this login button in the top right corner. It says login. When you click on that, it takes you to a page If you click on register for a free account, it will take you to another page where you can create your username, email, password, and all of that. This does not, I should mention, by the way, this doesn't have to be your OSU email, but if you would like to use your OKey information to kind of keep things consistent for you, that is an option. If you think you're going to want to use Zotero beyond your time at OSU, like maybe you're graduating soon, but you're working on a thesis, you might consider registering with a different email, maybe a personal email address, so that you can retain your data longer. So then once you register, you can log in. I'm going to go ahead and click log in here to show you what it looks like. And I thought I was logged in, but I'm not. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'll use my quick login option there. And so I can show you kind of what it looks like. So when you get logged in, it's going to take me directly to my web library. In older versions of Zotero, the web library kind of looked a little different, but this does stay pretty consistent as far as the interface with the client or the downloaded application version. But I'm going to go back to Zotero here and just click on my name. So if I click on my name, I'm logged in already. Then I have an option that says my profile. And if I click on that, this is where I can upload any publications that I have, create groups if I want to create groups and maybe add members to the group so that they can also contribute. And then again, you can access your web library from here as well. It does look very similar. And then once your account is synced, it will sync up automatically. So if you're away from your computer, but you want to download something to your Zotero, you can quickly log in and then use the web version, which is really nice. So now we're going to look at how to sync. At this point, I'm going to open my Zotero client, which has now at this point in the process been downloaded. Mine was already downloaded. I'm going to open it up. And I'm going to move it to the screen. Can everyone still see my screen? Hopefully so. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks, Vanessa. Okay. Okay, so from here, usually when you're downloading it and you're opening it up for the first time, it will pop up with a box that says, hey, go ahead and sync your account, which is nice. So now I'm going to click on edit and settings. This is slightly different than the old version. If I want to make sure it's synced, I can click on edit and then go to settings. And then this option for syncing comes up, and I'm already logged in and linked up, but it will ask you in this box here to put in your username and password and sync your accounts. And then you can check this box to have things sync automatically or have it sync full text content. I like to have these boxes checked. It's recommended to, so that if you're away from your account, things will sync up. Maybe you're in the library using a computer and you need to use the web version, and then you'll know that whenever you get back home to your home computer, things will be synced. And then having the full text content pulled in as a PDF form is something you can turn off, but I like to have it checked whenever I'm working just so I can make sure I get those into my Zotero. But we'll look at that a little later. Okay, going back to my slides really quickly. There we go. Okay, so this just kind of quickly shows a side-by-side of the old Zotero 6 preferences box and then the new settings box. If you're using an older version of Zotero, this is what it's going to look like. And this might be what you're used to seeing, but now it's been updated so that your options on the right are on the top. They were on the top and now they're on the right, but everything is still there. This is just sort of an update that's made things more accessible. Okay, and so now that we've set up our syncing preferences, we're going to just kind of go through the new interface together. We're going to open up Zotero, check out the My Library and the group libraries, and then we'll create a new folder, a new collection, and we'll manually add a new item, and then take a look at some of the features, add a note and a tag, and then we'll check out the new PDF viewer. Okay, going back to Zotero. Okay. So once again, this is what the client looks like with all three of your sections. Over here, we have the libraries and collections section. And then I can click on my library and all of my contents pop up in the middle. And then if I click on one of the items in the middle, the metadata or the information about the item pops up over on the right side. And so you can see I already have several collections made already. Let me go ahead and turn on my little cursor so that I can have things annotated. Let's see, annotate. Yeah, I'm going to turn on my little red button here. Okay. Okay. So when I click on a folder or a collection, it's going to bring up all the contents in the middle. So for example, this convergent mixed methods exploration, I have all these options over here on the side. Now, on previous versions of Zotero, the buttons where you could add tags and information were all at the top over here, but they've been moved over to the right side. And you can click on each of these sections and it will jump to that section, but there are drop-down menus attached as well. So you have these little arrow buttons. If you click on these arrows, you can get into those sections pretty easily. You can collapse things and move things around as you like. So this one this one has an abstract attached and then the information attached here. This is all the information that makes up your citation. So making sure this information is correct and accurate as you're going through will be important. And then you can add attachments and things. This one doesn't have an attachment, but if I click on one that does, like this article, for example, has a PDF attached, I can scroll down and that attachment will show the PDF here, which is kind of a new feature. It's nice. And then any notes, if I want to add a note, if it's in any groups or group libraries, that will show up here as well. And then tags and related things. And I can add these or remove them as I wish. Okay, so this item was imported and it automatically had all the information I needed as well as the tags, but I can edit this information manually, as I mentioned. And making sure you double check it for accuracy before using it to create a citation is pretty important. And we're going to look at how to import items shortly, but first we're going to look at how to create a new collection and then add a new item. So popping back over to, let's see if I can see this. So popping over to this side on the left here, this is where your library is. And if you have any group libraries, those will appear below. If you have created libraries that you can share with other people. But this is just my library with all the things that I have uploaded to my for my own personal use. And so if you click on this little folder here, this little button here, this creates a new folder or a new collection. And you can decide where you want to place it. Some of these have subfolders or subcollections. So under this AI folder, I have AI ethics, but I'm going to create an entirely new collection. And just for fun, I'm going to call it cats. So now we have this new empty collection and we can start adding content to this. So then up at the top here, you notice you have these options for adding items. There is new item, and you have all these different options for new items. There's also an option to add an item by identifier. There's an option to add an attachment. And then there's an option to add a note, either a standalone note, or you can add a note to an item that you already have in your library. What's nice is that most of these items can be imported really easily. But if I really want to add an item manually, I can do that. So for example, I'm going to click on new item and we have all these different options, right? Books, journal articles, and so on. Lots of different kinds of content, kind of obscure content. Maybe I want to add a podcast, just as an example here. Maybe it's my own podcast, and so maybe I can't import it from somewhere else, but I want to put in the information about it, for myself. So I'm gonna call this Zane's Cat Research Podcast, just as an example. And then it already has your item type as podcast, and you would put in all the relevant metadata about the podcast series title, episode number, URL if necessary, and so on. And then I could go in and manually add my notes and everything. And this is definitely a surefire way to make sure that your content is accurate if you really want to make sure it's done right yourself. But for most content you're going to find online, books and articles and so on, it's much easier to just import those articles. And so again, I can just click through. I can use these drop-down menus, or I can use these tabs on the side to click on these tabs, these icons over here, very colorful icons, and then add the options that I would like there. So then maybe here I want to add tags. So I'm going to put cats. I'm just going to create that tag. I can do cat, feline, research paper, and tags can be helpful if I'm going through a series of 50 articles, but I know I have 5 that are specific to the feline cat research, then I can tag those, and then I can search for those tags pretty easily. Okay. But honestly, what's even easier is importing those citations. So quickly, I'm going to show you, let's see, I think before we import citations, we're going to look at PDFs. I want to show you the PDF reader and how easy that is to use, since it's one of the nice new features. So I'm going to click on this article, and then if I double click on this article, it will pop up with the PDF. And then that PDF pops up in a PDF viewer, and then I can switch tabs. If I click on this tab here, it goes back to my main screen with all of my contents. Or if I click on the tab with the PDF viewer, it pops up with my entire PDF here. And then I can choose if I want to look at this information on the side, or I can pull it out all the way. I can move things around. And then I have these new features for annotating and highlighting and so on. Another neat feature, click out of this quickly. If I'm looking at the article and I have the information pulled up on the side, the attachment pops up here. And this was something that was not available in the previous version. And I can actually move that over a little bit and kind of have a side by side with my articles, and then kind of a smaller version of my PDF viewer. And I can even go through the pages. It's not the best way to view it, but it is nice to have that feature. It kind of makes things a little easier to access. But you can still just double click. You can move things around as you wish, and then double click into it to open the PDF viewer. And then, as I mentioned before, you can also do this now with web pages. And we'll look at an example of that in a little bit, where it grabs a snapshot for you. And then another, let's see, I think I mentioned that already. Yeah, I did. Okay. And then these features here. So up at the top, you have highlight text, underline text, and now you can also convert those as well. Note annotation, you can add text. So if I wanted to add a text box, I could maybe change my color to purple and add the box that says, I'm just going to make a note to add to chapter 3. That's something I really need to remember for later. And then you can use this item, this box here, to select an area. And then you can also draw things now. So if I wanted to maybe star this abstract to remember to come back to it later, and so on. And you can also erase or change the size of your options. So a lot of nice features for annotating. And if you're using a computer that has a stylus feature, a lot of people like to do that these days with their note taking. You can use that as well. So, okay, let me hop out real quick and go back to my slides. Okay. Okay, so we're covering a lot pretty quickly, and we've covered a lot already. At this point, we're going to take a look at how to find and save sources and easily import things into Zotero. So there are 4 main ways you can add and save sources to Zotero. We just added an item manually, kind of a quick example, but that was the gist of how you do that. And you can also add an item by identifier, such as a DOI or an ISBN. You can import items from a file, or you can use the browser connector, which is generally the quickest and easiest way. So now that we're more familiar with the interface and kind of know how to add items manually, we're going to start with adding items by identifier. So, okay. So I'm back on this home page, and I just added this kind of a joke podcast as a quick item. But maybe I have something I want to add by identifier. So I have a book that I know that I wanted to make sure I read about cats. And so I'm going to grab that ISBN for books and ISSN for journals, and then any DOI for articles. Those are kind of the best identifiers. It'll give you options here. It'll say you can add ISBNs, DOI, PMIDs. If you use PubMed a lot, you're going to find that PMID to be helpful, or any other specific object identifiers. So I can just paste my ISBN into this box and click enter. And then it's going to tell me that it's uploading the book. And there it goes. It's already popped up at the top. This is called the Book of Cats. And then if I click on it over here, I can see the information about the book. It's pulled in some information, but not all information. I might have to go and get some more information about it. And then it has very little information at the bottom as well. And again, this works easily with books, journal articles, and other sources that have clear identifiers. I can also easily import items into a collection. If you go to File and then Import, you can select an item to import that you have saved elsewhere. You can also import from Clipboard, but Zotero will make sure that your information is, it'll say the selected file is not in a supported format. And then it'll usually, sometimes it'll link you out to the support documentation. You can view the documentation on zotero.org for information on how to make sure that you're importing standardized formats and all of that. It's a little more advanced, and we're not going to do that right now. But if you went to File and then Import, it would ask you to find one of these file types, such as this Zotero RDF or this BibTeX format to import a file. Another nice option is to drag and drop. So if you have, maybe you have a folder just on your desktop that has some articles that you had saved. If you want, you can grab those articles from your folder and just kind of quickly drag and drop them. So I have these 5 PDFs on cats for my cat research, just as a fun example. And I'm going to drag those PDFs in here into my Zotero, just kind of in this blank space here. And then it's going to tell me that it's retrieving my metadata. It's grabbed this one PDF, processing, and it's pretty fast. It's kind of a neat feature. So maybe I was at the library and I saved a bunch of PDFs quickly and I put them on a flash drive, and then I went home and I want to quickly add them to my Zotero collection. I can do that. And then if I click close, now I have 5 more articles that I need for my research here in the middle. And then when I click on each one, I can see, again, the information on the side. And it does a really good job. It pulls in everything from the article PDF that you have. It pulls in the abstract. And again, it has the attachment information. And if I want to quickly look at that, I can pull it out, see the attachment here, or I can double click on the item and pull up the attachment in the middle. Notice it kept my other PDF that I already had up. It kept that here. I have to X out of it. And so you can pull up multiple articles and options at once and kind of, go through and do your annotating. It's kind of nice. Everything is sort of all in one in the Zotero app. So you don't have to have a lot of tabs open outside of the app. So it's a good way to kind of keep things compact. Okay. And then other than importing and using the DOI identifier, the add item by identifier with the DOI or ISBN, etc., you can also import using the browser connector that we downloaded. And this is really the most fun way to import things. So we're going to go back to the library databases and pull up articles that we can import using the connector. And so one thing I want to point out, in your browser, you can look at your extensions and pin things. I always want to make sure I have my Zotero connector pinned so that it's just here and available. Right now it looks like a document. Sometimes it looks like a folder. And it says saved as Zotero embedded metadata, and it shows that it has access to the site. And so I try to keep it pinned at the top so that whenever I'm going through articles, I can quickly find the button I'm looking for. So we're going to we're going to navigate to the library homepage, which is tulsa.okstate.edu/library. I'll drop that in the chat as well. And then we're going to scroll down a bit to A to Z databases. So we're going to go to our list that we have of databases here. And I'm going to do kind of a very broad search for articles. So I'm going to click into Academic Search Premier, which is a great general database. And I'm actually going to pause on my cat research at the moment. And instead, I'm going to pull up my Zotero here. And maybe I'm tired of focusing on my cats at the moment. So I'm going to go to my AI and ChatGPT. And I'm going to click into my AI ethics subfolder. And I have to write a paper theoretically on AI ethics. So I'm going to find some articles that I can put into my empty collection here. So going back to my database here, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time learning how to use the databases today, but if you're having trouble finding articles or finding resources, books, and so on, come talk to us and we can definitely help you with that. But just as a quick example, I need articles from my AI ethics subfolder, so I'm going to run a search for artificial intelligence and ethics and education. That's where I want to put my focus. And it's going to load my results. And then I'm going to filter my results to peer-reviewed articles. So I have a lot of results, and I'm already seeing conference proceedings and other things. I'm going to do peer-reviewed here. And that's going to narrow my results to peer-reviewed articles using the keywords that I put in. And so this title looks interesting: Unreliable LLM Bioethics Assistance, Ethical and Pedagogical Risks. I think I'd like to check this out later, so I'm going to use the connector and add it to my folder. So I can do this a couple different ways. I'm going to click on the title, and it's going to pull up the article. And then I'm going to click on my connector here at the top. It looks like a piece of paper or a document. And when I click that, it's going to say saving in the AI ethics folder. If I'm in the wrong folder and I want it to save somewhere else, all I have to do is click this drop-down menu and then click on the correct folder, and it will bring it up there. And it's going to grab all that information. And by the time I click on my Zotero, it's already there. So this whole content section was empty. And now here is my article. Here is the information about the article and all the different subsections. It grabbed an attachment. It grabbed seven different tags, 7 tags that were already linked to the article. Again, I could add more if I so choose. And it also grabbed the PDF for the article. So I can see the PDF. Again, I can pull it out, look at it, or I can double click and then grab that PDF and check it out here. So that was pretty quick and easy. There are a couple different ways to do this. The other option is to just open either from the results list or from the page, the title page, I can access and open the PDF. I've done this both ways. So this page has the PDF open, and then I can once again click my option to save it. And when I do this, what I'm going to find is that both of these are the same. So it really doesn't matter which way I do it. It grabs the information, and I can kind of compare the information from both items. And I'm going to find that they're basically the same, if not exactly the same. So it does a really good job. When you're creating your citations, again, you want to make sure all this information is accurate. On occasion, it does make some slight, well, I guess I should say it doesn't make the error, but if there are errors in the database or wherever the information lives online, and it just imports it in, then it's going to import it in with those errors. So making sure that it's reliable. But I don't need both of these, so I'm going to get rid of one. If at any point I decide I don't want any items in my collection, I can just delete them. I can use the delete button on my keyboard, and then it will say, do you want to remove the selected item from the collection? And I can click OK, but that actually doesn't remove it entirely. It just removes it from the collection. So if I can either remove the item from the collection by right-clicking, or I can click move to trash, and I'm going to go ahead and click move to trash because I don't need 2 of these. And then it will end up in my trash folder here that I can empty later. But that is nice. And so you can also do this from the results list in the database. So going back to this page here, this is where I did my search. And I have the results list here as well. And so this has several items on the page. But if I click on this Zotero connector in the top, oops, no, I didn't mean to do that. That's not what I was trying to do. Click a few of these and see if it, oh, it's glitching. Let me reload the page actually. Okay, there we go. I'm going to click a few of these that I'm interested in. Because usually what it does is it will allow me to, well, it's not working right now. Usually it will, no, that's not what I want. Folder. Yeah, that's what it's trying to do. It will pop up with a folder instead of a document, and it will allow me to save multiple items at once. And I'm not sure why it's, there we go. Let's click the folder again. I think it's just having a moment. It might be my browser. I might need to reopen everything. So if I click the folder, usually it pops up with a box, and it will allow me to select multiple citations at once. And so I'm actually going to X out of it and do this, run the search again. Academic search for mirror. Okay. I'm going to do artificial intelligence, ethics, and education. Okay. And then it's going to run my results. Okay. So at this point, sorry for that, this little folder pops up in the top, and I click the folder. There we go. That's what it was supposed to do. So then it pops up with the Zotero item selector, and it gives me options to select multiple articles. So maybe I want to check out these articles later to view. And notice at the moment, just for the sake of this example, I'm not being very choosy. You, of course, want to make sure you really thoroughly vet your articles whenever you're working on a research paper. But I'm going to click on these. These look interesting to me. Click OK. And then it's going to show that it's saving all these articles and it's grabbing the full text PDFs. This is really nice. In the past, older versions of Zotero, if you were grabbing multiple citations, it wouldn't grab the PDF, or at least it wouldn't all the time. But it does now, which is it's a nice update with the new Zotero. So now I have several articles with PDFs attached in my, oh, okay, these are the mistakes that I made. So I'm going to actually select these and then delete them. Move items and batteries to trash, yeah. But it's really as simple as that. So now I have several articles in my folder that I can use for my option, for my paper, which is not a nice option. Okay. And then as we can see, it grabs all the metadata and the PDFs and everything that we need. You can also do this if you have several items saved in a folder in your MyEBSCO account or in any other database in which you have items saved in a folder. You can go in and then it'll say, hey, you have all these items in a folder. Would you like to add them all to your Zotero? And that's easy. You can also do the same thing in Google Scholar. So I'm going to go over to Google Scholar. You can honestly do this on any website, but just for the sake of brevity, I'm going to show one database and then I'll show Google Scholar as well. So maybe I want to run my same search again. But I do want to emphasize that this works on any website. It used to be a little more clunky, but it does do a really good job of picking things up. And so I have a lot of options here. So once again, if I click on the folder, I can say, hey, there are several items here that I'd like to add to my library. So I'm going to click on artificial intelligence and education, ethical principles, maybe qualitative analysis, and so on, and then click OK. And then it does grab those articles. Sometimes it takes a little time, it just depends. And it grabbed the available version of the PDF as well. If the PDF is not available, it will not grab the PDF. I think that goes without saying. And to note that if you are not finding your article that you want in Google Scholar, make sure you come to the library and we can get you your article as well. And then I can also click on an individual item. Oh, that just clicked directly on the, if I wanted to go to an individual item, and then I can click on the Zotero option and it adds it there. So then if I go back to my link here, I can see that it once again added more items with the PDFs attached. I mentioned I can also do this from any website. Maybe I want to add some TED Talks about AI ethics. Let's do AI ethics, TED Talks. So maybe I want to go to the TED Talks page and I see there's a lot of information on AI intelligence. I want to make sure I come back to this later and check out some of these TED Talks. And so I can click this button once again. It really is as simple as just clicking a button, and then it drags in all the information you need, saving to AI ethics. And it's going to grab what it calls a snapshot, which is not the PDF, but it is a snapshot of the website. So going back to Zotero. So now I have my artificial intelligence TED Talks, and then I have this snapshot over here on the side. So if I click on that, and it brings up the snapshot in the same way that it might bring up a PDF. So I'm going to pull up a PDF here, and then I'm also going to pull up the snapshot of the website just to kind of show. So you still have some annotation features here at the top, the same way that you do with a PDF. Not quite as many, but you do have some options, which is pretty neat. So this is, again, just kind of a snapshot of the website from the time when I opened it. And so if I want to, if I'm wondering what was that web page I saved, I can open it up within Zotero and not have to open a browser at all to view the web page. And then I can underline things, I can highlight things. Maybe I want to underline or, note something to come back to later. I can say, hey, come back to this later and look at that. So that's a neat feature. And once again, I did mention these before, but I just want to mention again, so these features are pretty new. It's neat. You can highlight, underline, add your text and so on and play with those. I do think it's neat, especially if you're someone who likes to make notes on a tablet or a stylus or something. So maybe I want to like draw and say, okay, this section for chapter 1 and so on. Okay. So moving on then, we were covering quite a lot pretty quickly, and we are going to have time at the end for questions here. So we just did all of this. We downloaded sources 4 different ways. And so now we're going to move into the last part of the workshop, which is about citations and bibliographies. So we have several sources in our folder already, and then the next step is going to be to incorporate them into our writing, into our paper. So we're going to open Microsoft Word and make sure that Zotero is open as well. This does work with Google Docs, and then LibreOffice. I don't actually have LibreOffice on this computer, and for the sake of time, I'm just going to show Microsoft Word, but it does work with all 3 of those really well. So I'm going to demonstrate Word today. And so we're going to do all of these different things. We're going to set our preferences, look at how to quick copy, and then do in-text citations and bibliographies. So when you download Zotero, I'm going to go ahead and open Microsoft Word as well. Just kind of a blank document here. And when you download Zotero into your word processor, it's automatically going to add this tab that says Zotero at the top in Word, Google Docs, and LibreOffice. It's a really nice feature. And so you can make sure that's set up by going into your Zotero settings. So once again, edit and then settings. And if I click on Cite and I scroll down just a little bit, it'll say, here are your word processors. The Microsoft Word add-in is currently installed. If I needed to reinstall it for some reason, like if it wasn't working and needed an update, I could reinstall it. And then it shows me that I don't have LibreOffice installed. But if I added it, I could click that to install it later, which is really nice. And then in Word, so in my word processor here, when I click on the Zotero tab, I can see a couple of options here. Add edit citation, add bibliography. You're going to use these the most. If I click on document preferences, I can go ahead and select my preference for my citation style. I have mine set to APA 7. Usually when you start typing and then start adding your citations, if you don't have anything set in your preferences, it's going to pop up with this box and ask you to set your preferences for a style. And there are, I think, over 10,000 different citation styles. And so I'm sure whatever obscure citation style you need, it will be in there. But I think one of the most common is APA 7, as well as Chicago and MLA. So I'm going to click on that and click OK. So I have add edit citation and add edit bibliography. So say I'm writing a paper, I'm going to go ahead and call this AI ethics. And then I'll think of a more fun title later. But maybe I'm starting my paper. This is a paper on AI ethics. This sentence is going to require a citation space. So I have my sentence and I've added a space. And now I can click on my Zotero button up at the top and then click add edit citation. And then I can go ahead and add my citation. So it pops up with this little box and everything is linked to your Zotero here. And then it gives me some items that it thinks I might want to use based on documents that I have open. But I can also just start typing to look for something I need. So maybe I want this one here. And then I can click, oh. And then if I'm in my little box and I click enter, it will then add my citation and I can end my sentence. You can also add multiple citations at once. So then I'm going to use my space there, add citation. I'm going to add this one. I also know I want this one as well. I can start typing in the author last name like I did here. I can also start typing in a title, and then it will bring up other things from that title. So it just kind of depends if I know what I'm citing. There are different ways to do that. So I can add multiple authors and it will put them in alphabetical order. And if I click enter, it will add those in the style format. So notice this is correct APA 7 style as well. And I can go back and do formatting and things later as well. And so then say I get to the end of my paper and it's time for my reference list, my references or works cited list or what have you. So what I could do then is go to Zotero and then add edit bibliography. And it's going to start processing from all this information up here into a reference list. So I had 4 different citations here, and then it grabbed those and pulled them into this reference list here really quickly. And I didn't have to do anything. Now I can see a couple of these have a couple of APA errors. These errors are due to errors that are on my Zotero, in my metadata. And if I were to update my metadata over here in Zotero, it will update things in my reference list as I make those changes. Another quick option, I'm going to do a blank page here just to show this other example. Another option, if I just need quick citations, a quick copy, I can go to my list here and maybe I want to copy all of these into a quick citation. So I'm going to select all of them and then I'm going to drag them. Well, there we go. I'm going to drag it over to my Word document and then drop it. And I have a very quick citation list. So that's called quick copy, and it's a quick way to do that. There are also keyboard shortcuts and things that do that. And all of those shortcuts can be found in the documentation on zotero.org. It's really quick and easy to do, and that's a nice option. But that since it is a quick option, it's going to copy over, but since you're not using these buttons here, it's not actually talking to Zotero. So if there are any edits that need to be made, you'll have to just kind of double check those and make sure. Whereas up here, whenever I used my add edit bibliography, if I were to make an update in Zotero, it would automatically update here. So these are linked to Zotero, and this little quick copy feature is not linked to Zotero. So once again, double checking and making sure that things are accurate. So that's kind of a quick guide on what you can do as far as citations and bibliographies in Zotero. It's really nice. It saves a lot of time. And that's just crucial. We all need more time as we're working on our papers and everything. So I want to wrap up with a few tips and things to be aware of when working with Zotero. I did mention already that Zotero is really, really good at formatting citations correctly in the thousands of citation styles that are uploaded into it. However, if your metadata is incomplete or incorrect, your citations are also going to be incomplete or incorrect. So you want to make sure that you double check that by checking the item type, authors, editors, titles, dates, etc., and then making sure it's in that format that you need. Troubleshooting, you shouldn't have any issues, but if you are having issues, the typical fix is to restart your browser, restart Zotero and your word processor, and then double check your settings, and then making sure things are installed correctly. If this does not solve your issue, check out the documentation on zotero.org, or make an appointment with us at the library and we can try to help you. I know some people have had issues with, let's see, someone last semester made an appointment. She was on, I think, a Chromebook or like a smaller Mac laptop. And so if you're on a Chromebook or a tablet or something like that, and you're having trouble, we can try to see if we can help you. Another note is that the free version of Zotero is really great, but storage space is limited. So if you're working on a giant project and you have like thousands of PDFs you want to save and you're running low on storage space, it will tell you. And an option is you can upgrade to a paid account where you can pay for more storage, just like you would with any other software, or you can choose to store your PDFs elsewhere and remove the PDFs from your Zotero and just have the citations only. And the citations by themselves take up less space, but your PDFs do take up more storage space. And then lastly, make sure to save your work, save it as you go, and then save it often, especially when working in your Word document. And then one question I've been asked pretty frequently is about AI in Zotero. So I want to address that before we get to questions. Zotero does not yet have AI tools built in, and it really doesn't need them. It does a lot of really great things on its own without AI. But some people do use AI assistant browser extensions to create notes and add those notes into Zotero. I don't like to do that, but some people do enjoy that feature. And then there are AI tools out there, such as Research Rabbit, that do integrate with Zotero. So in Research Rabbit, you can actually import papers that you have saved in Zotero into your Research Rabbit, which is a nice option. But that's really information for another workshop. And we do talk about Research Rabbit and other AI tools in a workshop that we did last semester. And so if you're interested in that, let me know. And so at this point, we'll move on to questions. Thank you so much for attending the workshop. If you have questions or need help with your own device or need individual help, you can make an appointment using this QR code here to book an appointment, or you can email me directly or visit our website to chat with us or send in a question. And so at this point, I'm going to stop recording and we will open up the floor to questions.